All right, so we have a couple of questions to ask you.
Okay.
So the first question we want to ask you is, what is magic?
The bigger ma- word magic with the capital M is more a feeling. I mean, there's the performance art of magic is to achieve that feeling, I would say. Um yeah, you can I mean, you can experience magic, awe, wonder from a sunset, from a piece of art, from the birth of a child, from all that stuff. Uh, and I think the art of magic is attempting to give that feeling on cue.
All right, cool. Thank you.
If I don't stop now, it'll be in another hour until I
Right.
stop. So
Sounds good.
I could keep guide like yeah. So that's what came to mind first. So
Okay. And then if you had to categorize magic tricks, what do you see as the main categories? And what are the examples that would fall under these categories?
um do you mean categories of like you're asking for my definition, not if I think like appearances, transformations, telepathy, that kind of stuff, more so like how I would see it.
Yeah,
Is
like
am
how
I
you would
understanding that?
categorize magic tricks.
I think this is I may screw this up, but I'll say it's my interpretation of Ken Weber's feeling. Ken Weber wrote a book called Maximum Entertainment, and he talks about all magic tricks experiences can be categorized in three things. It can be uh um, I forget what the first one was. I think it was these three. It was puzzle, trick, extraordinary moment. And I I really do try to shoot for, the really, really good tricks and that ever elusive extraordinary moment. Um, and that's at least how I think about it. I think about it that in that term for the artistic side. From the practical side, I actually do think of my material or think of magic or categorize magic as almost first and foremost, like when I see a trick performed at a convention or in a dealer room or read it from a book, I see it immediately as an opener, a middler, or a closer. Like, where can I do this? Can I go up to a group cold and do this? Like, that's almost like the first, like what's the audience I'm doing it for? And that kind of, have they seen me do stuff before? Is this a middling piece, or is this going to be the final thing that I say thank you and walk away? So I guess those are the two ways that I kind of see them. I mean, again, to make it even simpler, it's either mysterious or it's not. Like that's the other thing too. Like there are plenty of great, intricate card tricks, and the method may be intriguing, but it's not mysterious. It's like Eugene Berger, my mentor, used to say, like, does this look like magic or does it look like I'm messing with those cards?
Hmm. So with these categories, do you have any other examples like the puzzlement, you said the trick, and what was the third category you said?
Extraordinary moment.
Extraordinary moment. Yeah, do you have
Mhm.
examples of tricks that would fall under those?
Um, for me, a puzzle would be akin to an optical illusion. Like it look. Here's the first category right here. You ready? Now that may, as good as that looked, I did not pull my thumb off.
Mhm.
Um, that said, it's amazing what context and time of year will do. I actually just recently found out in the book The Witch of Lime Street that my wife's reading, Harry Houdini performed that for Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Lady Doyle in a cab in New York, and Lady Doyle nearly fainted. And the book says The book says he removed his thumb at the joint. So, and like, unless he had some kind of weird work that we don't know about, I'm pretty sure it was that. So yeah, to spiritualists 100 years ago, yeah, that could have become an extraordinary moment. But I think now that every uncle and their brother has done it and everything else, it's definitely, and also I think just culture itself has changed to where, like, that was an optical illusion. Like, no matter how many subtleties I put in, no matter how many things, like, you're never gonna go, well, maybe he did pull his, like, it's just not gonna happen, with the exception of, like, maybe, the most, I want to be careful how I put this. Like, sure, you could. So apparently, I've had friends who have gone to other countries where apparently they don't have uncles that do this all the time, and apparently they gasp and run away at it. So I guess maybe for them, but I'd like to think that most people, even if they have that initial "oh my god" response, the more they think about it, they go, well, maybe it was this, maybe it was that. It's the mystery. For me, the difference, honestly, is how long that wonder holds. Like, and the longer it holds, the more extraordinary the moments. I think that makes sense. The other thing too is, like, how much, like, I think the more extraordinary it is, the more you can build up to it and the more you can play it off after the fact. I can be introduced as, I'm going to read your mind, and you're going to be like, no way. Then I'm going to read your mind. And then after the show, you don't go, well, yeah, but he talked to me before. Like, if you have any of that stuff, you're not, and then after it's like, well, maybe, like, the extraordinary moment can hold up to the pre-examination and the post-mortem, I think, a little bit better. That said, again, it's elusive. I mean, again, I'm sure for the right person, with the right story, the right mood lighting, I could maybe make someone think that this is a true piece of witchcraft. I'd have to do a lot of work, I think. And so I would say the more extraordinary, like, as far as, like, the trick goes, the closer the trick on its own is already to the extraordinary moment, the less work I have to do. I think that's the other thing. When I tell someone their iPhone code, I don't have to work very hard to tell them why that's important and why that should be amazing. They have to, they know already, like, hey, he should know this. He knows it. I don't know how he knows it. And like that's it. I don't have to do too much. I still try to bring some humor, artistry, all those other, big fancy words to it. But I think, yeah, so I think, so that would be that. A trick is kind of the middle ground, I would say, like, and I think that's it too. I think that with the right amount of presentation, you could bring this up to, like, a really good trick. Like, maybe you got prosthetics, maybe just for example, like, let's say you initialed my thumbnail and, like, I was able to then pull it off and it was still there and I didn't have it there. So yeah, you would probably be asking, you'd be a little bit closer to trick, right? You wouldn't be thinking, okay, he definitely pulled his thumb off, but, like, you'd be like, okay, did he transfer the initials over to the other thumbnail? Maybe it was a shell that moved over. I don't know. That to me gets it a little closer to trick. And extraordinary moment would be if I just said, like, I don't have a method for this, but if I said, go ahead, reach over, slowly lift up, and you lifted my thumb up, you could look at it a few moments and put it back. Like, I wouldn't have to say much more than that. I could say, thanks, bye, and walk away. And that would be the extraordinary. I don't have a method for that extraordinary moment. And I think some tricks do, like I mentioned before, like, do offer themselves more to extraordinary moments and to tricks. And I think you can build a puzzle up to a really good trick. I'm not sure you could build it that much further to an extraordinary moment. I think you can take an extraordinary moment and build it up. And I think the opposite is true as well. You could take an extraordinary moment and reduce it down to a trick or even a puzzle. I'll finish with Max Maven. This quote's been popping up in a lot of things I've been reading lately. 20th century magicians have managed to take something that's inherently profound and render it trivial. And yeah, and I think a lot of magicians do that. I think you can, as hard as it is to take the trick to take the puzzle to the trick and the trick to the impossible or the incredible moment, I think you can do the opposite. I think you can take that incredible moment and render it back down to a puzzle very, very easily. A lot easier than it would take to make those two extra leaps up. I hope all that made sense.
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying, that you have puzzles which are interesting but not all
Yeah,
that confusing, and then you go up and up.
yeah,
Okay.
yep.
So then what do you think differentiates good magic and bad magic?
I'm gonna go back to before. It's either mysterious or it's not. Not to say not mysterious magic can't be interesting or entertaining. I mean, I know lots of, just for example, kids magicians who, yeah, the goal there isn't deep mystery. The goal there is to make all the kids love you and roll in the aisles laughing and everything else. I think they do get to, I mean, Tony can back me up with this. I think people like Danny Orleans and Tim Hannig like definitely get to pretty dang close to that extraordinary moment in their family shows. Um, uh, so and not to say that every single magic effect needs to be an extraordinary moment either. I think, it's I try that and it's exhausting sometimes. I kind of envy the magicians that can just do like an hour of like really wonderful, elegant close-up magic and then end with that one extraordinary moment. That style just doesn't fit me. But at the end of the day, like it's either mysterious or it isn't. And I think that's the other thing too. I think sorry, I'm just gonna shift because the Texas sun is beating down on me.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think so it's either mysterious or it's not. I also think good magic is about the audience. It's about the people. Like I saw someone say what like they were trying to differentiate between magic and mentalism, which I don't see it. And they tried to say it as like magic is all about the magician, but mentalism, mind reading, is all about the audience. And I just thought, okay, sure, but like good magic should be about it should be about us. It should be about all of us together. Like if I make it all about the audience, but I'm kind of creepy. I haven't showered. My hair is greasy. I'm wearing a playing card tie and I'm standing a little too close to your 8-year-old. Like, doesn't matter how good the tricks are, like you're not, yes, like there needs to be some aspect of me in this, that's hopefully, engaging and fun and so on. But also, yeah, I think my good friend Karen Henning, who did my tattoos, her definition of magic is magic allows people to be the hero of their own stories. And I have anecdotal evidence of this. Tony can back this up. We've all had someone go, "Oh, you're a magician? Oh my God!" Years ago, a magician put a red ball in my hand, and when I opened my hand, I had two. What was his name? I have no idea, but they remember that. Well, Tony knows, and I'm sure you've learned, Talon, from studying, the little amount of sleight of hand you've done. Well, not little, but in the short amount of time is what I mean. You very likely know that that's not the routine. The routine is one ball goes in the spectator's hand, a magician holds one, and the magician's ball vanishes from that hand and teleports into their hand. But the magician is completely edited out of that story. And it may have been a very good magician. Like, we don't know. I can't say it was one of those greasy haired playing card tie guys. It could have been our dear departed friend Tony Eugene Berger. It could have been. He did the sponge ball trick and he was wonderful. We'll never know that. But I find fascinating that with almost all of them, the magician, they don't even remember his name. And so the fact they completely have edited out of their memory the whole half of the trick that involved the magician. It's all about them and their journey. I had something, I opened my hand, it was different. They are the hero of that story. And I think that's where I kind of land on it.
So you would say that when you make the audience have the be the hero of their own story, that's
Mm-hmm.
good magic then?
Yeah, I think good magic. Yeah, good magic is. Yeah, and it's open to interpretation. I mean, I've definitely seen some magic where I didn't necessarily love the performer, but I thought, wow, that effect is great. I've definitely had, and I don't know if non-magicians can determine from that. I keep getting that quote about pornography. I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. That's kind of what I'm. That's kind of what I'm relaxing and keep coming back to in my head. I'm trying to make that be as clear about that as possible. Uh, but I think, yeah, it's even if it's not about me. Like I saw arguably one of the greatest magicians alive, Juan Tamariz from Spain, do a show a couple years ago at a convention, and the standout moment was when he just had someone on stage holding a deck and calling someone on the phone, and had the person on the phone name a card, and he was like, just okay, cut the deck, and they cut the deck, and they had cut to the named card that was named on the phone. Like that was the spectator on their own. He was away from them. It was on the phone. All that stuff. It was, it was a true. He was over the top. Everything else, but it was ultimately about that person. Oh my gosh, I'm on stage with this legendary performer. I'm calling a friend. I'm holding the deck. It worked, but again, I could see someone again with that who could just render that down to a puzzle,
Mhm.
just like, you know.
Okay, and then so we are interested in finding the boundaries between magic and other forms of entertainment. So I have a little bit of a list here for you. So
Okay,
is pickpocketing magic?
you're gonna ask. You're asking the wrong person on these questions. If I know where this is going, yes.
Okay, why do you consider it magic?
uh because again, it's about me. It's, if we're going back to that thing, it's like, oh my god, like even if I'm not the guy on stage, and of course context, if I'm on the street and then I reach my wallet, it's not there, that's not magic, that's a crime. Like that, like, that's a puzzle that happens to be a crime. As soon as I reach for my wallet, I know what's happened. Like I know I've been pickpocketed. I may not know when, may not know who in the crowd, but I know I've been robbed. So let me be clear about that. If we're talking about theatrical on a stage, someone goes up and like takes people's watches and wallets and gives them back at the end as a performance, yes, I would consider that a form of magic. Because again, even if I'm not on the stage, even if I'm in the back of a 2,000 seat theater watching a pickpocket on stage, it's going to be really hard for me to not just reach over and make sure I feel my wallet. And again, whether I'm on stage, that the moment I do that, I've become the hero of my own story there. Like, okay, I've got my wallet. And if I'm on stage and I'm watching him and he still gets my wallet, I still get it back. Like, how great is that? I was robbed and I got everything back. I'm the hero of that story.
Mhm. Okay, and then are visual or optical illusions magic? So this would include like the duck rabbit illusion, if you've ever seen that
Yeah.
picture.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I would, a very light yes, because when I say puzzle, I'm typically talking about an optical illusion. Like you could, like again, presentation and context is everything. If you just turn the duck, yeah. But if I think it was Max Maven who did it, where he put it on he had a duck and a rabbit, put him on a spectator's hand, snapped, and they had changed places. And then he showed the audience that it was those illusions. But for the spectator, they had changed places, which I thought was really fascinating. So yeah, so I think it can, in that regard, yes, it is a trick. It is an optical illusion. It is a puzzle. It's on the very, very bottom of the scale. But yes, I would consider, again, on its own, no. If it's just like on a page in a book, it's an optical illusion. It's not going to give that feeling. But if it's presented in the context of magic, then yeah, it's on that low end of the scale I was mentioning before. But I would say yes.
Okay. Are sideshow demonstrations magic?
This is where I thought I was like, okay, oh man, if any sideshow performers, and if I'm going to psychically predict other mentalists are going to be upset with a lot of my answers to this. I'm going to say yes, because I've done, like, I always thought, like, oh my gosh, this trick should look like if I could go up to someone and do it for real. If I could take two rubber bands, put them behind each other, and make them go through it should look as if I could do it for real. And then I started learning sideshow, sticking my hand in an animal trap, hammering a nail in my nose, things that were real. And people still went, how'd you do that? It's like the nail collapsed. Do you switch the nail? Like the fact that it was real, but they were interpreting it as a magic effect, as a mysterious moment, was very telling. And in many ways, it made me realize, like, oh, it doesn't matter if it's real or fake. It's going to create the same feeling in people. Like if it's just another very, very light tangent on this. It doesn't, if I'm sitting at a card table in Vegas and I can get my winning hand on top of that deck through real magic powers or through some kind of psychological sleight of hand or attention blindness or whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to get paid. I'm still going to get that big amount, So why should it matter if it's occult supernatural powers or psychology sleight of hand if the result is the same? And so yes, again, it can be presented as a science experiment, sure, like, hey, check out what our bodies can do. But absolutely, I mean, I've definitely, some of the to talk about that extraordinary moment, some of the closest times I've been to that extraordinary moment of watching a performer has been while watching sideshow performers. So I'd say yes.
Is mentalism magic?
Yes. Going back to, you already knew.
Mhm.
You know me. I'll give you this quote. Juan Tamariz in The Magic Rainbow. He says, because magicians like to say, what's the difference between magic and mentalism? In the subject on mentalism, he says, all magic is mentalism because it all exists in the audience's mind. Every single magic effect exists in the minds of the audience. So therefore, all magic is mentalism. So I'm like, yes, one of the greatest magicians on the planet has verified what I have felt my whole life. Yes. Don't have to move on from there. Don't have to elaborate.
Is it magic if it uses camera tricks?
Ooh. Oh, that's a really good one. That's a really good question. I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to briefly say my reasoning for it. That's like saying, is it really magic if it uses a key card? Is it magic if it uses a thumb tip? Is it magic if it uses a gimmick or a gaff? Is it magic if it uses the right angle on stage or a black cloth? It's just another method, right? It's just another method, and it can be used deceptively and it can be used not deceptively. Again, like I have seen, I don't want to name the trick. I think it's like some of the best pieces of TV magic have used camera tricks, whether it was editing, whether it was using one method to film the audience reactions and then using a different method when we at home saw the effect. It's another tool in the toolbox. I think some TV magicians have used them too much. like any method. Like if I'm doing the thumb tip and I use that badly, I'm always moving my hands and eventually you're going to see it. You know, if I use it once and casually and well, you will never. Tony and I have friends who use thumb tips all the time and fool magicians with it. Like, wait, there was a thumb tip in that? Like, you know, so if you can use it well and you use it not well, you can use an editing or a magic trick or a CGI trick well. You can use it not well. I think I won't lie. The first like 3 or 4 Zach King videos I saw, the part of me was like, is he doing editing or is this a magic trick? I can't tell. Eventually, for some of them, yeah, like it's like, okay, yeah, this is editing, but it's very slick editing, and that's part of the fun of it. I remember the one he was jumping back and forth between beds and then just backed on, like fell back onto the bed, and all his clothes were on top of the sheets, and he was under the sheets. And I had to watch a couple times going, is this a trick? Like, is he doing like a quick change thing? I can't tell. So in that sense, yes, I had a magical experience, maybe not that capital A astonishing moment, but it was definitely like in the realm. So, but eventually, and when he got known for it, it was like, okay, we know it's camera tricks, but then that's part of the fun of it is like, where is it? Where isn't it? It may not achieve that astonishing moment, but I think again, if it's used in the right context, yes, absolutely. I can name. There are several household. That's the other reason why I don't know the people and their household names. I don't want to talk out of school for them, but like, you know, there are people who have become household names because they used the magic of camera, the magic of TV properly.
Is it magic if it uses stooges?
Yes.
Instant stooges too, then?
Yes. Well, as long as the instant stooge doesn't confess, as long as the instant stooge can, you know, doesn't say like, yeah, so the moment the instant stooge says something like, yeah, then the whole thing's blown. Of course, then it's no longer magic. The illusion has fallen apart. But I'm not at liberty to discuss. But I have used. I've never really used instant stooges. I've definitely used dual reality type stuff where people thought they knew part of it and everything. But I have used stooges 3 times in my career, and I'm not at liberty to discuss when. So yes. Again, like I don't think it's not a method I could make a career on. I couldn't like, you know, do my. If I'm doing a 50-person show and 45 people have to be stooges, sure, that may really amaze those 5 people, but it wouldn't be very like commercially successful. Like it wouldn't be like I wouldn't be able to make up my living using that method all the time. But yeah, but I think if it's again like if it's used well, yes. If it's again someone else used stooges a lot, particularly on TV in not great ways, and it became obvious after a while, just like any magic method.
Is contact juggling magic?
I was waiting for juggling. I was waiting for it. I'm going to make this one short and sweet. Yes, because the contact jugglers and jugglers always get the standing ovations at the magic conventions. They always do.
Nice. Are people like Uri Geller magicians?
I am going to say, so I interviewed Uri Geller for my radio show. I am going to just quote him on this. He has more rebranded himself less as a psychic and more like a mystifier. He's always been an entertainer. He's always claimed to be an entertainer. You know, first and foremost, definitely done some. He doused for oil, found oil, and they gave him millions of dollars for finding the oil. So, you know, like that. Again, whether that was a trick or not, he still got millions of dollars worth of shares in an oil rig. What he said in the interview, and I in many ways I agree with him. I agree more with the sentiment. He's like, there are some who want to just call me a magician, and that's fine. But if that's true, then that would have to mean I am the greatest magician in the world, because I have done all of this with a limited repertoire of 3 tricks, and no one can still fully agree on what methods I'm using. And so, and I'm kind of apt to agree with him on that. I don't agree with everything he's done, ethically, artistically, showbiz wise, all that. He is a fascinating person to talk to. He's a very kind person. I think the weirdest thing about him is that he is sincere and that he does have these wacky beliefs. For sure, like he believes in positivity and good energy and all, like he really does believe in that. So yeah, so again, if he is, he's one of the better successful. How many other close-up magicians have made a method? If he is a magician, how many other magicians have made a 50-year career out of 3 close-up tricks? You know, doing them on TV, radio, stages, all sorts of places. So I think yes, and he has presented at magic conventions, so I'm gonna say yes.
Okay. Is the use of a secret method necessary for the experience of magic? Can
No,
a magic effect exist without a secret method?
no, and that's why I went back to sword swallowing. Like there were, I can tell. So, I mean, David Blaine, he shoves an ice pick through his hand. What's the method? He shoves an ice pick through his hand. It's still a miraculous moment. Now, yeah, you can just do that. Say what you want, but there's a difference between David Blaine and the Jackass guys. David Blaine, yes, while he's doing Jackass type stunts, is creating a moment of mystery and wonder that those guys don't, when they just go, oh, check this out. That said, I'm an idiot. I love the Jackass show. Like I saw the trailer for the new Jackass movie. I was like, yes. I'm just a big kid. I'm gonna move back over into the shade real quick. It's more so I don't want my iPad to like burn in the sun and melt. All right.
Mhm.
So yeah. So I think, yeah. And again, going back to I mean, the first time I saw a human blockhead, the guy said, now this is a magic trick. It's not really possible. So don't try this at home. And for years, I was like, how did he do that? And then I realized, oh, he did it. So elements of motor response and contact mind reading and such that do elicit a that moment of mystery without the need of being theatrically enhanced.
Okay. What is misdirection?
This is probably what most magicians are going to say for this question. Good misdirection is just direction rather than taking people's attention away from something, bring it towards something. That said, misdirection is the term. Direction is a theater technique. When you want someone to look stage right before an actor comes through a door, all the actors will kind of turn and start directing for that. Misdirection is when those techniques are used to direct away from a secret method.
Why does misdirection work?
Because we're all dumb humans. No, we're all humans, we're not, like, that's the thing. Misdirection works on the smartest of people. Like, I don't care how smart you are. You missed the breakdancing gorilla in the basketball video, or the bear, whichever it was. Like it works on me. Like I can't tell you how many times, and no matter how much I study magic, there will still be a moment where a magician's doing a card trick and then says, but under the card box or under my drink. And I look and there's the card in open view under their drink. It's like, he got, like, it works. It works on all of us. I've been in magic for, the last 30 years of my life practically. And that moment can still get me and still get, no matter how much I study, no matter how much I learn about magic and misdirection and everything else, it's still going to work on me because I am human. Again, like, it may not be that extraordinary moment. Again, if I have, my pocket, I'm pickpocketed or something stolen from me, it's like, oh, they got me. Like, it's something we're all susceptible to. And it may not work for everyone all the time, but I think a really, really great magician can get most of the people most of the time.
Is misdirection necessary for creating magic?
No, there's lots of effects that don't rely on any misdirection. Again, if we're going to go the Tommy Wonder definition, yes, direction is important. Like, you need to, like, I need to direct attention to the nail and the hammer before I hammer in my nose. Otherwise, if you're not looking, you're not going to see the effect. But that is not to misdirect you from anything else. Like, that's just a general stage direction, which is what I think Tommy Wonder was getting to. But no, I don't think. Again, like, it's just like Stooges. I think if your act relies on too much misdirection, eventually it's just not going to work. You got to find new ways to incorporate the misdirection and so on.
When using misdirection, what methods are you likely to employ, and when would you use them?
Ooh, asking a question is always good misdirection because they literally will, like, look up and away from you. If someone's more so, like, the big thing that close-up magicians need misdirection for is when a spectator's burning our hands. And we're just about to do a secret move or something like that. Like, we're just about to palm the card. Like let's say I'm holding the deck, your card's on top, and I need the card, and you're burning my hands. And I go, Talon, do you remember the card? And the moment again, we're humans. The moment you hear this isn't going to work on Zoom, obviously, but the moment you hear your name, you're going to look up and bang, right at that moment, I can palm the card, and we're set. So yeah, so there's lots of ways to use it. That's the big way I use it. There's a lot of gesturing. A big thing that I actually learned from a stage manipulator, Arthur Trace, is everyone says don't point. Like, if you take a coin, put in your hand, don't point. Pointing's a no-no. He does more leaning on stage by incorporating that in a much subtler way. This is weird because I'm going to be doing it with nothing, but it'll still make sense even on Zoom. I do a lot of weight shifting. So if the coin's here and I do the false transfer, I just shifted my weight just ever so slightly to the side. Doesn't matter that I'm still holding out the object, just everything. I'll shift my weight from, foot to foot. If I want to pull direction away, like, there's a moment where this hand's empty, but I want people to think a coin's here. And I go, look, the coin's gone. And I'm leaning here. So they immediately look at it and say, but you know better. The coin's really gone. And that was to take focus away because the coin is actually stuck to the back of my hand. Whereas if it was here, they might still be looking here and not here long enough. But here, they're going to pull all that focus here and say, no, it's really gone. And now it's like, whoa, it's gone. And now they're not asking me to do that. And now I'm balanced out. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, I do a lot of thematic misdirection. Like, it's more like misdirection as to why we're doing this. And I found a good story. Like, if people are more wrapped up in the story, they're not going to be looking for the method quite as much, if that makes sense. Like, if I'm just for example, if I'm telling a story about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Sherlock Holmes and all this stuff, and talk about how I'm going to use one of the techniques that's in a book of techniques that Sherlock Holmes would have used and such, they're going to be less likely to be looking for trick cards because I've led them down that path of this is going to be something that Sherlock Holmes did a card trick. this is how he would do it. He would be using psychology and cunning and stuff, not gimmick cards, which is what I'm actually using.
What factors make these methods of misdirection more effective?
Ironically, sincerity. Doesn't have to be honest, but sincerity. I think people, Tony, you can probably verify who this was. Can't remember who said it, but it was like people like to be fooled by a gentleman. People, and I think that was like the big thing with Magic back in the day, and it's definitely coming back with people like Steve Cohen and so on, and even Darren Brown. They're very classy, warm individuals. Like the best magicians are people you just want to spend time with. They're not physically cuddly, but emotionally cuddly. You know what I mean? Like you want to be around them, even if they do something, even if there's some menace and there's some, like, there are moments in some of Darren Brown's specials where it's like, oh my God, he's on the edge with, making this woman, freak out about her fears and stuff. But yet at the end, he says, are you okay? Let me take care of you. And he had all that. The reason he could go so dark is because he has that warmth after the fact. And David Blaine has, became a little bit of a punchline for a while because he took himself so seriously. But in his last few specials where he has his daughter involved and stuff, and you see that warmth of him and his daughter connecting, like that made it. That was as good as any of the card tricks he did, because we see this new side of this person. I think if you're just being a snarky, hey, I know what you don't know, I'm better than you, I'm smarter than you, to quote the Jerry Seinfeld line, look, here's a quarter, now it's gone, you're an idiot, now it's back, you're still an idiot. That's making it about me, that's making it about the magician, not making it about you and your story from before. Look at magicians in literature. Look at Dumbledore. Look at Gandalf. These are people that literally convince people to follow them on impossible quests, and they need to be warm and encouraging in order to do that. And I think there needs to be that level of not confidence in the performer, but our confidence in the magician, and like, okay, we can follow this person into the pits of Mordor and we'll be okay. Whether that's that or just like, hey, we're gonna follow this person as he explores, the seance room and does like a seance recreation. Like we want to know we want to know that we're safe, even if we're going to be going into that more dangerous place. And I think if that's there, then everything else just kind of falls in place. Like the more warm they are, the less you're looking for like a secret move, the more you're willing to be directed by them and thus misdirected from maybe some secret methods. I think, I think just having that warmth and that connection is, and even, and I'll finish up with this. Chicago bar magician Matt Schulian, like, infamously, when he palmed the card, it like stuck out of his hand like this, but no one saw it because he was able to direct people. You see pictures of Matt and everyone's laughing and having a good time. Like he would literally, there was a method to one of his tricks. It was the signed card under tablecloth. A card is selected, signed, hijinks happen, and then he takes a spoon, dips in some water, pours on the tablecloth. The tablecloth becomes transparent, and the signed card is under the tablecloth in the middle of the table. And the method was he lifts up the tablecloth and shoots the card under it when no one's looking. Like the boldest no. And you need, and when Eugene Berger taught it, he said, you need to establish a sense of fun at the table, because if they're just sitting there staring at you, you're not going to get away with this. And I think that's a perfect example of it. The more fun you are, like, here, take the deck. Don't feel self-conscious that everyone's evaluating your shuffling abilities. Ha ha ha, playful, boom, the card's loaded under the tablecloth, done. But again, they're willing to do that. And go on that literal path of misdirection because he was warm and playful and was able to establish that energy.
Why do people like Rob Zabrecki, who does not have warmth or elicit empathy?
Oh, I would disagree. I think Rob Zabrecki exuberates great warmth. He has that Adams Family vibe, like there was that meme that went around recently about how no matter how weird or normal you'd be, Gomez and Morticia would welcome you with open arms, and like that's very true. He like here's the thing. Yes, he's very aloof, but he's trying to be human. He's trying to be like us, and on one level, like, at least this is my interpretation of it. This may not be what he's going for at all, but at least for me, him just trying to be human, him just trying to fit in and dance and sing Paper Moon to make us like him, and the fact that it doesn't, it's just trying to fit in and make us feel connected to him. My wife participated with him on stage for one of his routines, and she was like winning all these prizes. And there was a moment where he just took two giant bags with money signs on them. He's like, "This is your prize, money." And with all sincerity, he just looks at it and goes, "Do you like money?" Like, and like at that moment, you're just like, oh, he doesn't care about money, but he's trying to make sure she cares and she likes surprises, Like, it's absolutely like, in fact, I would say without that, he would just be not just creepy, but a creep. Without that childlike warmth and awkwardness and silliness, like, yeah, like it's there. I think there is, and also depending on some of his tricks don't rely as heavily on misdirection. There are still moments for sure, but like, again, like, we're still fascinated. We still want to go with him on this journey. And my proof of that is he walks off stage with the box, never showing us what's in there. And we're like, but what about what? That's proof that we cared. That's proof he won us over, because it's like, oh wait, what about, oh, okay, it was just, all right. If that were the case, we wouldn't have even noticed or remembered the box, but we do.
Okay, so then I have just a couple more questions.
Okay.
What is exposure bad for magic?
Um, this is a complicated question. I want to be very, very careful, because whenever people always say like, "Oh, why don't you go on AGT for the exposure?" And my Karen Henning again, she says, "Well, you can die from exposure." Um, so I want to be careful about that. Um, a lot of people think so. I'm in Texas filming for Scam Nation, formerly Scam School, where a lot of magicians see it as a magic exposure channel, and I don't see it as that. And neither does Brian. It is magic teaching. The difference between magic, or between teaching and exposure, is can the person do the trick or the effect afterwards? If they can, it's teaching. If not, it's exposure. So I am all for teaching. I'm all for sharing magic, all that stuff. That said, I am not for, like Brian and I, we actually did research yesterday on one of the card tricks to make sure that the magician, to see what the crediting was and make sure we could teach this. Because if this was a still living magician, we'd have to get their permission. The book it's in, it was published by someone who's passed away. The creators passed away. It's like, okay, this is fair territory. I am not to go on this show and say, okay, I'm going to show you, just for example, Rob Zabrecki's drawing duplication. Like this, that's not mine to teach, or expose. If I've created my own thing, or there's something that's so in the public domain, like that's the only thing. A lot of magicians feel like they can expose like mentalism tricks because it's what psychics use and everything, but that's still stuff I'm using in my act. Like, I I think, yes, if I expose something that someone else is teaching or something someone else owns, yes, it is bad for that person. I am hurting that. If someone sells let's just say this is a deck of cards, just off the top of my head. Let's say this is a deck of cards with a spring through the middle to make the cards like rise up. And let's say someone has made it and patented it. Actually, that is in Tarbell, but let's just say that's the newest trick from Theory 11, the inflating pack, all this other stuff. When I buy it and I take it and I go on YouTube and go, oh, look, it's a spring in between all the cards. That's hurting the people who bought it. That's hurting the people uh, who are selling it. That's hurting a lot of people. And of course, removing the mystery from people who may potentially see it, which we can get into that in a moment. But do I think it hurts? I think that, yes. Do I think it hurts magic as a whole, though? I don't think so. Not to say it's all okay. I do not believe in exposing another performer's tricks. Let me just say that right up front. That said, all the classics, sawing a woman in half, the linking rings, have been exposed on cereal boxes and in like cigarette ads. And yet they still mystify people. And magic, since more people have known about trick cards, card magic has gotten better. Like, rather than keeping people ignorant to a Svengali deck or TV magic cards, since that has come about, there have been cleverer trick decks. There have been better card tricks you can do with regular decks. The fact that people know a little bit, just a very slight sprinkling, does not matter. I've been fooled with a Mark deck and a Svengali deck. Two of the most basic things. I again, 30 years. So someone else can be, if they just know those terms. I think teaching magic is more important. There's more magic being done. Magic has never been more popular, more socially accepted in my lifetime and Brian's lifetime, the person I'm filming with here. And I think a big part of that is the internet. Now, yes, are there things being exposed and even taught that shouldn't be because it wasn't that person? Yes. Unfortunately, that has slipped through the cracks a couple of times. But I think the benefits outweigh the cons. There are more women in magic now because they can learn on the internet and not have to go to the back room of Denny's with a bunch of old men who are going to teach them the value of keeping a secret. And as far as I'm concerned, that's more important than someone's trick deck. Like, if that, unfortunately, and again, I'm not okay for it. That doesn't mean I'm going to go, oh, someone else's patented trick deck or something, I'm going to turn around and expose or even teach. No, I'm not going to do that. But I'm just saying that, yes, when that happens, yes, there should be repercussions and there should be consequences, and, that should all be figured out amongst magicians and amongst everyone, morally. But I'd rather figure that out than hear another story about how I've heard several stories in the last year from young women who aren't in magic, who say they got into it, had magic kits as a kid. Now, yeah, some of them just lost interest or they didn't know where to go. But there are some too where it's like, my friend Tiffany, she flat out said she wasn't allowed to join her magic club. They said, oh, sorry, we don't accept female members. And she's my age. This was within the last 15, 20 years. Like, that's relatively new, or recent, I should say. It's not new. It's been going on for a long time. So she had to self-teach herself. So I think, yes, it makes a new level of, we have to be careful with policing the tricks and making sure stuff doesn't get exposed. But and also I'm going to say this finally, I think more magic is exposed through bad performances than any amount of views of how David Copperfield flies on YouTube or how Penn and Teller do one of their tricks or whatever. There are more people just performing bad magic and exposing magic than all the YouTube tutorials put together. And Again, I'd rather have that. I'd rather take those small hits and have to police those and have a more welcoming and diverse group of magicians now and in the years going forward. Um, than have a top secret deck of cards that only me and a select few number of people who pay $29.95 know about.
All right, thank you. I think that's where we're gonna end it for today.
There's 8 more
So,
questions, but you keep rambling, Joe. We gotta cut you off. It's fine. It's fine.
oh no, we got through everything we needed to get
Okay.
through.
All right. Cool. 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 Cool.